before I came on. I'd like to be able to look into those baby blues, my darling.
Thank you, darling.
That's
Gosh,
it.
it makes me laugh at Acorn Antiques.
Oh, God, they look so young, didn't they?
That Mrs. Overall
Not
is
Mrs.
one of the greatest comic creations of all time. It's wonderful. When did you first come across her?
Vic wrote her and wrote me lots of old ladies, actually, because I don't want to sound like a pervert or anything, but I was sort of obsessed with... Well, I was. I'm getting to be one now. But I was kind of obsessed, you know, with the way people aged.
Why?
And I don't know, just from... I think because my grandmother came to live with us just before I was born, and she was a bit... I'm sorry, I've just had a sweet... She was a bit do-larry-tap. And she'd had 2 strokes, and my brothers used to say, at the 3rd stroke. And so she, you know, she was there from my birth and was behaved rather bizarrely a lot of the time.
In what sense? What way? What do you remember?
Well, for instance, I can remember us all sitting around the tea table one night. This is just one of many incidents, and my mother going, "Oh, may the great God look to me." And we all turned round, and there's my grandmother sitting in her chair by the fire, eating a boiled egg with a massive pair of cold tongues. Wow. Actually quite skillful, when you think about it. And her face covered in coal and egg, you know. And I used to think about my poor... I mean, she was very incontinent, and nobody could go near the chair. And what was the... Nobody would go near the chair, of course, because it was next to the fire, so you got a good warning. But if you did sit in it, it sort of went... Don't sit in there, and don't sit in the chair. And you know how horses sort of walk along, sort of innocently breaking wind and dropping... Well, my grandmother was a bit like that. But I remember her doing that very thing in the garden.
Oh, really?
Walking up the garden. It was the one time my mother didn't stop her, of course, because I suppose it would have been rather good for the plants.
Did she used to wander off?
She did wander off. She did. She got a pair of sort of knee-length interlock weave pink bloomers, which we had to hide from, because if she found these bloomers, she'd be off. And it was usually in the middle of the night. And, you know, the small hours of the morning, the poor people at the post office, she always turned up at the post office, would ring up, and they'd say, "We've got your mother-in-law here again, Mr. Walters. Can you come and get her?" And things. She didn't speak to my father, of course, my grandmother. He wasn't good enough, a man in overalls. Was not good enough.
Right.
And so my poor old dad had to go and get her back, you know, and
so there's a lot of her in Mrs. Overall.
I suppose so.
And other people that you observe, 2 other old people. What is it, I mean, the particular fascination? Do you fear growing old, or...?
No!
You don't?
I'm not... No, I don't fear growing old. I'm 55. I was 55 this week, everybody. So you no need to sing happy birthday. I'm proud of being 55. It's bloody great, you know, to get to 55. And no, I've never been bothered about people knowing how old I am.
You're looking wonderful.
And you can come again, Michael.
I know I can. And also, too, I mean, the parts that you're getting more interesting and risque, aren't they, as you get older?
I know.
I know. I mean, Calendar Girls and that Wives of Bath with that Paul Nicholls, eh?
Well,
Toy Boy.
I know. I was very anxious about going to bed with Paul Nicholls. A lot of people would be gagging, but I was very nervous. Then I met him, and of course, he is just the loveliest bloke. We had such a laugh, but I had to have massive underwear.
Did you?
So that he could not... Well, you couldn't get this out for a young man. It wouldn't. Only my husband, you know. And I've seen him sort of look away on occasion. But I mean, honestly, I'm not joking. I had a bra that started up here, and you know, and I did have actually, and it was one of these all-in-one Marks and Spencer's sort of corrective knicker type things. It was all the way down to it. I mean, it was worse actually than not having anything on in there. People used to laugh, you know, when I took my robe off, but we had such a laugh. I'm not worried about that sort of thing.
No, really. And Calendar Girls too, and that's just such a lovely film. And go on.
They're thinking of making a musical.
Are they?
They imagine that tap routine.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see?
Absolutely.
I know. I'm not sure I'd want to be in the stalls for that. I'm sure you would, Michael.
I'd love to, yeah. Absolutely. But, I mean, they're making everything that you have ever appeared into a musical. Billy Elliot, of course.
Which is going to be fantastic. That will be brilliant.
And of course, now the Acorn Antiques, Did you ever imagine, when you were doing Acorn Antiques and doing Mrs. Overall, that one day she'd end up tapping on stage?
No. When Vic said she was going to do a musical, I thought, how fantastic. Mrs. Overall singer, that wasn't so bad. And I thought, no, it'll be all right, dancing will be fine. But I've got a thing about tap dancing.
Why?
Well, I'd started with Stepping Out, which we did in Canada, in Toronto in 1990, that's the film.
Yes.
And it was just so difficult. Luckily, Phil Collins' sister, Carol, who's really lovely, gave me a few lessons before I went. Thank God she did. Because when I got there, we had this choreographer, and I'm not kidding, he was vile. He was so horrible to us. He treated us like something that had come off your shoe, you know. And he graded us. You know, so you had the really best person at one end, Liza, of course, and the really crap person at the other end, me. And it didn't help that he looked like a scrotum. He did. Yeah, I'm not joking. He did. A scrotum with glasses. Yes. Michael, honestly, you get Mary tonight to get a mirror. No. Get... Do you see? And you will see this man. You don't want to see him.
No, I don't want to see that at all.
He was very cruel. So I was very... But Michael,
yes.
I don't mean to keep interrupting you.
No.
But on Acorn Antiques, we got Stephen Mear, who I have to tell you is the most wonderful choreographer. And he did Mary Poppins, did that fantastic supercalifragilistic number.
Yes.
In that, and he's a fantastic... And his assistant, Samantha Murray, who just gave both Victoria and me just masses of confidence.
So anyway, let's have a look, because this is from the stage version, which is, I mean, I really did laugh at this piece. It's a wonderful tap routine from Acorn Antiques, the musical. I must say that the audience reaction the night I was there was quite unlike anything I'd heard in the theatre for a long, long time.
I know. Duncan Preston, who plays Mr.
Yes.
Clifford,
Yeah.
we often have a chat backstage when we're waiting to go on, and he said, I've never heard roars like this, only in a football stadium.
Yes.
He's absolutely right. Sometimes they go mad. Sometimes you have to tell them, stop it. I have to say to them, you know, I know, it's been a fantastic experience.
When you look back on this, 20 years now, is it, since you met Victoria?
Yeah.
And you started off on this road. Can you remember the first time you ever did, the thing you ever did together?
Yeah, the first thing we ever did together was this thing at the Bush Theatre it's like the pub theatre in Shepherd's Bush,
yes.
And it was called In at the Death, and the audience were every night. And it was like a series of little we weren't allowed to call them sketches. We had to call them playlets. And so there was a series of these written by all sorts of different people. And that's when I first properly met Vic, that she had written one, and it was called Sex, I think. Was the title of it. And it was just the hit of the night. It brought the house down. Yes. And it was just about... I can't remember it in total detail, but I was like a librarian, and she'd come in to bring a book back, and we got talking about the fact that I thought I was pregnant. And I remember her saying to me, well, where are you in the menstrual cycle? And I said... Taurus. That's the only line I can remember from it. But it was really funny. And then from there, she wrote a play called Talent for me to do with her. She said she was going to do it, and I thought, well, I didn't think no one had ever done that, so I never thought it would really happen. Yeah. And I went off to Bristol Vic, and I couldn't do it when she'd written it. But then we did it for television, up at Granada. Yes. And so I had to go and audition, because they didn't no one knew what it was, and she played in the right key for me and in a much higher one for everybody else. So I got it.
It's amazing when you think about it, you look at the range of roles you play, and what a wonderful actress you are, and you really are, by common consent, and you know that yourself.
Thank you.
You had no training at all, did you? I mean, you had opposition from your mum at home, and...
Well, my mum didn't want me to go into it. She went mad when she heard I was giving up nursing, which was a respected and sort of... And of course it is very sort of safe kind of thing to go into. It's what she wanted to do, nursing. That's what she wanted me to do.
Yes.
And then, you know, for me to go into... May the great God, that came up again. May the great God looked at me, it was all that. You know, you'll be in the gutter before you're 20. I was, but it was rather nice. And, you know.
Was she ever reconciled, though, Julie?
Yes.
She was. Did she accept it? How did you find out that she'd accepted you?
When my mum died in 1989, and when we were sort of, you know, dealing with all her stuff and looking at it and everything, I found in a little box all these cuttings that she'd kept. She never talked about it, really. I mean, she would sometimes in front of other people. I'll never forget, after educating Rita, she suddenly realised that people might know who I was. So we were going along Bearwood Road, where we live, and a friend of hers was coming the other way. Well, I don't wonder what she was doing, just pushing me along, and veered me into this person so that we could step. That's Julie, you know, she's just finished filming. Educating Rita with Michael Caine, as if he was some little extra in it, you know. So it was that. But there were all these cuttings, so, you know, I thought, oh...
That must have been nice to have found that. It's like a treasure trove of respect, really, that she'd really been pleased all those years.
I know, and I think she would have wanted me to have found
It's a lovely story, I like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 14 weeks you're into Acorn Antiques, you've got that in the run?
12 weeks now, but yes.
And then, what, more Harry Potter and Mrs Weasley?
I'm not in the next
You're not?
one.
Oh, how dare they?
Honestly. But I possibly the next one, we have to see. Because I love being Mrs Weasley.
Yes, it's a nice part, isn't it?
I know, and you know I wear all this padding?
Yes.
Dan, who plays Harry, didn't think I was wearing padding. I was very upset about that. I mean, I've got these massive bosoms, and they're filled with birdseed. That's what they fill them with. You know, it's absolutely terrified in King's Cross. It's full of pigeons. And not only the pigeons, but the owls. They've got all those huge owls. Not the birds. I imagine this seed for them.
Well, listen, I mean, all the success with the musical, as I said, it's well worth going to see. It's a wonderful laugh. It really is marvellous. Julie Waters, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.